So let's just jump right in. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather have $100? Let me say you have $100. Would you rather have $100 added to by 10, or would you rather have it multiplied by 10? Now, so for those of you that are not good in math, I'm going to ask, some of us are not. Would you rather have $100 added to by 10, that's $110, or would you rather have $100 multiplied by 10, that's 1,000? I'm going with option 2. I'm going behind curtain number 1, number 2. You know what I'm saying? I think we'll all say, I would rather have my money multiplied. This is the God that we serve. The God that we serve is a multiplier, and we can't wrap our minds around it sometimes. Here's the thing that we have a problem with is we have such a problem giving him control and him freedom to multiply what we think we can't. I don't think I can give to him or bring to him or leave with him something that I have to have so badly. What is that thing I have to have so badly? Well, I have to have that money. I have to have money. I have to pay my bills. But remember, it's all God's. I'm just a steward of it. So multiplication is better than addition. So we're geared to think addition. We add how many chairs we need to how many chairs we have, and we come up with a calculation of how many chairs we need. We add how many people will be at Thanksgiving, and we buy that much more food, or less, and we cook that. So we're conditioned to add. We're not conditioned in multiplication because that's where God works. See, this is how God works. We learned in week 1 that He's first. He can't be second. It's not possible. And just so I can kind of get the smoke going, there's no beginning to God. There's no end. I mean, so see, we don't understand that. It will make us literally get confused trying to understand that God never started because we're conditioned to add. Tina and I added children to our lives. And so they have a beginning. I had a beginning. So we have a hard time understanding that God has no beginning and no end. But when we look at God, we say, God is first. The Word is set up that way. The relationship is set up that way, and He can't be second. And you say, well, that's a little bit selfish of Him. It's not selfish. It's just the way it is. I cannot be second to my children. I had to come before them. It's not possible for them to come before me. So that's just practical as well. We learned in week 2 that He owns everything. Everything's His. He owns the cattle, the hills, the potatoes, the fruit, the trees. He owns it all. And then I get to be the steward of that. You get to be the steward of that. That's pretty cool. I think that is really cool. God doesn't have to include you and me. He doesn't have to include me and you in everything that He does, but He chooses to include us so we get to walk in a powerful blessing because of it. So we learned in week 1 that He's first. We learned in week 2 that it all belongs to Him and He's the steward. We also learned in week 2 that the tithe belongs to Him, doesn't belong to us. It is the first, and we're only stewards of that. So when we live by this principle, we live under God's rule, and it's a multiplication principle. So you say, the answer to the question was, I'd rather multiply my 100 than to add to my 100. Well, when we live obediently under that law, that rule, that his standard, then we live under a multiplication principle. We're going to place ourselves under that. And we're not going to be able to understand it. And see, I think too many times we want to analytically and understand everything, and we're just not going to. I don't know how God turns this into that. I don't know. I don't know how He made water into wine. I don't know. I just know that He did. I don't know how in many years of my life, Tina and I walking with the Lord, when we saw things happen or bills paid, and we didn't know how they got paid. When we looked at our checkbook, that's a thing that back there were paper, and it was worth something or nothing. But when we looked at our checkbook and we're like, there's not enough here, but yet it all got paid. I can't understand it. I can't explain it. I can't explain what I don't understand. So I can't explain it and I don't understand it. But it just did. See, we learned last week that that Titus is. And we live under this principle. So we're going to be blessed, and we're going to be blessed with multiplication. And we don't give just to get. Let's always remember that. We don't give to get. We give because that is part of our relationship with Him. We don't have to get up on Sunday morning and come to church. We get to do it. Right. We don't have to get up and do our devotions. We get to get up and do that. We don't have to, I have to pray. I mean, no, I can't have lunch with you because I have to go pray. No, I get to do that. So let's jump into a popular story. There's a popular story in the Bible that exactly lays all this out. So it's in the Gospels, and I just want to explain it to you. There's 4 Gospels, and 4 Gospels are written by 2 disciples and 2 cohorts, so to speak. So basically, you got 4 Gospels in the Bible, and they are all eyewitness accounts of what happened, and they are all 4 different accounts of basically the same story of Jesus. Some are very detailed. Luke is more physician-oriented. He's more detailed. Mark is more, a little bit more straight to the point. So we see that some of our Gospels will include this, but some won't. If you take 4 of us and set us down here and let us see a car accident or something, we're all going to write down different things that we saw of the same event. So they don't contradict one another. They complement one another. And there are some things that are in all 4 Gospels. One of those being Jesus' death, crucifixion, Jesus' resurrection. Those are in all 4 Gospels. That's the absolute most powerful event the world has ever known. The world will ever experience. That is, and it's recorded in all 4 Gospels for us to see. There's also something else recorded in all 4 Gospels. That's a lot of the miracles are only in one here, one there. Some don't even have parables. Some are all a lot alike. One, John stands alone a little bit. But when we look at the Gospels, there's one happening in there that was so massive that they all 4 recorded it. To give you an example, if you were alive in 1980, some of us were born after that. If you were alive in 1980, there was a volcano that erupted in the United States, Mount St. Helens, and it was everybody talked about it. It was the one thing that nobody could get their focus off of. It was an explosion that blew a half a mountain away and killed several people, but they were watching for it. So everybody was kind of on the edge of their seat waiting for this to happen. If you were around in September of 2011, we had planes hit our buildings, and it was thousands of people were killed. Nobody could be glued to anything else. I promise you, nobody was watching The Simpsons. We were watching this. This was what our focus was on. So when something is so massive that every author writes about it, it's huge. So that would be, hey, Jesus' crucifixion, Jesus' resurrection, big deals, big, powerful things. But then there's this one thing that is also a massive undertaking, and it was when Jesus fed 5,000 in the Bible, recorded in all 4 Gospels. Do you know that even the birth of Jesus is only in 2 Gospels? It's not in all 4, only 2. This is the birth of our Savior, born humbly in a manger in Bethlehem, and it's only recorded in 2 Gospels, but yet He fed 5,000 people, and it's recorded in all 4. It's because it was the biggest thing that had ever happened. And we're just going to break it down. So feeding 5,000 was absolutely huge, powerful. So we're going to break it down. And I'm not going to have key points because we've got too many of them. We're just going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4. So number 1 is the culture of the day in ancient Israel was this. When they counted, they didn't count everybody. You say, what? Well, Jesus fed 5,000. Yeah, but they didn't count everybody. They counted heads of households. They counted family units. When they count and they say Jesus fed 5,000, the number was 5,000. That means they counted the families that were there. So I'm trying to get us the magnitude of multiplication here. Jesus he's buying, well, we'll get to that in just a second. I don't want to run ahead. So a family was considered a single unit. So in other words, if me and Tina were there, then we would be one. If Farah and Sarah and Jason were there, it'd be 1, 2, 3. So it'd be 3 units. So, but they also counted the men. So we have to establish that this count is accurate, but it doesn't encompass the enormity. And just so you think, I don't want you to think that I'm adding to or taking away from the word. That's it's not for us to do. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 14, verse 21, this is what he says. That number was 5,000 men besides women and children. So Matthew is more of an accountant, and Matthew gets a really good detail he tells us, because we need to know this. He tells us that that's not the absolute number. It's the number of the culture of the day. Number 2 is, many believe this was the largest crowd Jesus ever spoke to at one time. I would say, duh. I mean, my gosh, that's pretty massive. That's pretty massive. So this is the largest crowd that Jesus ever spoke to at one time, more than likely. Could have been more. I don't know. Not everything's recorded. But Jesus was trying, more than likely, to get alone. You say, well, why are all these people there? Because people want to be in the presence of the Lord. People are hungering for the presence of the Lord. People want the Lord to move in their lives. But here's what they will do. They will come in and they don't care about anything else. So let me just say, Jesus has just found out that his cousin, John the Baptist, has been beheaded. So what do you do when you get news like that? You just want to kind of grieve a little bit. You want to process. You want to try. You know what's going on in his mind? I know why I'm here. I know why I'm here. I'm the son of. I'm the second name mentioned in the triune Godhead. So Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I'm part of the Godhead. I created this. I know why I'm here. And John the Baptist being beheaded is just a reminder that your time is coming quickly also. So just keep in mind that he's trying to process, number 1, what a powerful voice. The world will never have a powerful voice like that ever again. And they killed him. Now, I'm about to go, he's just really getting ready to start ministry. And he's saying to himself, I got to get away and process this. He gets away and process this, but he can't. Jesus living in a glass house, he can't get away from people. And here they come. What does he start? He just starts ministering to them, healing them, speaking to them. And he's all day long. When we read this account in all 4 Gospels, we will piece the pieces together and see that it's been all day long. But here's the thing. I want to put it on the board for us so we don't miss it. When people are in need, they'll only see their pain, not someone else's. They don't care how much pain you're going through because all we care about is our pain. Somebody, when I was in youth ministry, Tina and I, somebody pulled into the parking lot. We had church, and then we had our auxiliary building, which was the Mexican restaurant. And so we had finished service, and then we went to the annex, and then we had finished service at the annex, the Mexican restaurant, and we were standing outside, and one of the mothers pulled in and said something like, why do you have to remind her of her past? And because one of the young girls, I'm like, hey, so good to see you. We just love you so much. And she had quit coming because she had let something defeat her. And it wasn't on my radar. I didn't think, it never dawned on me. And I just had to stop the mother and say, look, you're living in a world that I'm not living in. What you're doing is you think everybody thinks the way you do, and we don't. I had no idea what you're talking about. So in other words, your tragedy, I'm sorry, but I told her this, I said, your tragedy, people don't really care about. The thing that you think is going to destroy you, they have something destroying them. So please understand that people aren't walking around trying to live your life. They've forgotten about your life by tomorrow. So I mean, I don't want that to be ugly. I don't want it to sound bad, but it's the truth. When people are in need, they don't care if you're in need. They don't care if you're in pain. They don't care. When somebody is praying with you at the altar, I can almost tell you they're going through some kind of battle as well. but they're going to make sure that your needs are met first. So let's read John chapter 6, verse 5 through 13. This is that story. We're going to use John's version because they all have something we're going to basically clip from. But lifting up his eyes, and he sees a large crowd, and they're coming toward him. Jesus says to Philip, Philip was originally from this area, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? Verse 6, he said this to test him. He knew himself what he was going to do. And Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to have even a little. So let's just stop right there. We're going to come back in just a second. Number one is this is an odd number to throw out. If you and I were to be right here, right now, if we were to say, gosh, it'd take, what would, I mean, think about it. Don't blurt out, but just think, what would it say if we're going to feed 1,000 people? Gosh, it'd take $10,000. That's an even figure. Well, that'd take $1,000. That's an even number. What Philip throws out is a number that is a little bit more than a half a year's wage. So in other words, that's an odd number. Philip, what do you say we do here? It's a lot of people. That would take $12,373 to feed those people. It's an odd number. Why did he throw out such an odd number? Because he's already ran the numbers and it didn't add up. See, we've already added up and realized in our minds and in our lives that God can't do it. He can't do it. Forget it. Not going to happen. So God, who built the universe, can't feed a few thousand people? No, he can't because I can't figure out how he can. So when we look at that, we say, okay, so what was the number? Was the number 5,000? No, it was more like 25 to 30,000. So the average family was probably, the average family in the day was a mom, a dad, and 4 kids. That's 6 people on site, minimum. So let's just say 25 to 30,000 people. And what Philip did, I'm from here. I know what time Dunkin' Donuts closes. I'm from here. I know I've been into Walmart and walked to the left side of the bakery side. I know there's not enough bread in there. So I've already calculated it's going to take $12,773 to feed these people. Odd number, because he's already figured it up and he's already done the numbers in his head. Verse 8, one of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there's a boy. He has five barley loaves and 2 fish. And what are they for so many? Jesus said, have the people sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so it was kind of like a courtyard. Let's just call it that field. So the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Notice it says men. Matthew says not including women. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated, and also the fish as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, now gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing is lost. See, I'm not frugal because I am. I'm frugal because I'm just like Jesus. I'm just trying to be like Jesus, y'all. I just don't want to waste anything. See, I have a problem. If we order, Tina and I, if we order 2 meals, the problem is I'm going to sop it up with some bread. I'm going to eat it because my mindset cannot waste a nothing. Not anything. If we drop a penny and it rolls up under a truck, I'm crawling on that truck to get it. Can't waste that penny. So I'm like, can we just get one? She's like, but I want what I want. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll eat what you eat. And I don't even like it. I just can't stand to waste. And then I'm going to gorge myself because I can't stand to waste. I'm going to go home and I'm sick. So help me out here. So they gathered up 12 baskets and they filled them with fragments from 5 barley loaves and from those who had eaten. In other words, how do we even get 12 baskets left over out of that? How do we ever get enough to feed everybody out of that? I can't figure it out. I'm conditioned to add. I can't figure it out. I can't even multiply that and make it work. So Philip was asked by Jesus, hey, Phil, let's come over here. Let's talk a minute. There's a lot of people here. And he's like, yeah, There's a lot, Lord. There's a lot. Do you realize these people couldn't fit in Bridgestone Arena? Oh, I didn't think about that. Do you realize they couldn't fit in Thompson Bowling Arena? Do you realize how big they couldn't fit in the, where Tennessee Tech Stadium, they couldn't fit in there. That's too many people. How are we going to feed these people? Phil, how are you going to do this? You're from around here. Where can we go get some food? I can promise you there is no vendor that has this much food in that day. Where are we going to get this? Where are we going to get this? Jesus knows what he's going to do. He knew the amount of people there was. He knew that amount. He knew they were hungry. And he knew Philip would calculate and add it up. That's $12,737. We don't have it. It's going to take that much money to feed these people. Even if we're getting it at $1 a piece. Even if we're getting it at 78 cents a piece. It doesn't add up. We don't have any food. We've got 25 to 30,000 hangry people. I don't know what to do. The numbers just don't add up. So I love the way Jesus just knows what he's doing, but yet he gives us an opportunity to learn. Do you realize that you would add this up? You've already got an odd number, a little bit more than a half year's wage. I don't understand how you got that number. It's because you calculated it. You're not called to count the cost. You're called to fish. I'm called to fish. I'm not called to count the cost. It's called to fish. So Jesus, number 4, Jesus will multiply what will never make sense to us in the natural because we're conditioned to think in the natural. It's not ever going to make sense to us because we can't think that way. He tells us in Isaiah, you're not conditioned to think the way I do. My thoughts and everything else are higher than your thoughts and everything else. So you know what? There's just an element of faith and trust. It's the only way we make this work. The only way. You know, when you're a baby and you're a toddler and you're trying to walk and you look up at mom and dad and they're like, number one, how'd they get so tall? Number 2, how are they doing this with ease? You know, I don't understand. When you're trying to learn how to tie your shoes, I figured that out a few years ago. I figured out how to tie my shoes, but it was easy to the one teaching you. But it's not, after a while, you're like, okay, I think I got this figured out. See, remember from last week, Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. Bring the tithe into the storehouse and see if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing on you. And he says, hey, try me. I double dog dare you. I double dog dare you. So Jesus is saying, you know what? Try me in this. I double dog dare you. See if I won't just pour out. See if I won't multiply for you. You're still thinking addition and subtraction. You're thinking that if I make $100, then I've got to subtract 10 and I've got to give it to the Lord. Number 1 is you don't subtract anything and you don't give what's not yours. So I can't, why should I subtract when it's not mine to start with? All I can do is bring it, and God will multiply it from there. But I'm so conditioned to think scarcity rather than generosity. So, come out from under a curse, he says in this scripture in Malachi. What you add up in a few dollars, I will multiply to make it a few thousand. And you know what? More than likely, it's going to be a few tens of thousands. So I'm going to get, this is a perfect example is the reaping, the sowing and the reaping. I put one kernel in the ground and I get thousands of kernels back. I put one grain in the ground, I get thousands of grains in return. God knows what he's doing. I promise he knows what he's doing. But notice something. The only one who had anything in the way of food was a boy, not a disciple. So in other words, the disciples didn't come prepared. See, sometimes I think we come thinking what God is going to do. He's grieving, he's hanging out by himself. We're going to give him some space, and then we'll be over in Samaria just a little while. We can hit up McDonald's. So they're literally not prepared. We got one kid that's prepared, and I just want to tell you something. There's nowhere, anywhere that indicates that this kid brought this freely. That the kid said, hey, I have food. I've got food. Here, Lord. You know what I think? I think the kids delivering Uber Eats and they jacked it. I mean, the kid just literally, he's walking along and Andrew's like, give me that. And he's like, wait a minute. So in other words, here comes the kid along but what does, he only has one mindset. Hey kid, do you really have some food in there? Yeah. Would you let the Lord have it? Sure. That's all God needs is sure. Sure, I'm good with that. You know what? Somebody taught me how to fish rather than gave me a fish. So I'll go back and get some more. If the Lord needs it, then I'll do it. So they've hijacked his Uber Eats, and then Jesus multiplied what the kid brought. Guys, this is never going to make sense. I don't care how many times we preach it. I don't care. We could get it on a whiteboard. It's not ever going to make sense because his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And when Jesus takes two little bitty pieces of fish and starts breaking them open and everybody gets fed and there's so much left over that, wow, a lot, 12 basketfuls left over. It's a lot. That's a whole lot. Whose phone was that? Okay, all right. Was that Hallie? Was that yours? Let's answer it. Hello. Can't talk right now. We're in service right now. Okay. Order me a 2-piece fish dinner. I'm hungry for fish today. So she's ordered Uber Eats, guys. I just want fish for some reason, You messed up my rhythm, Hallie. Hallie's like, it's not my phone. You can always tell a basketball player. I don't even know but Camden goes. In other words, I'm going to divert. It's probably my phone. But anyway, so Jesus multiplies, and he starts taking these, I don't understand it. I can't explain it, but I have faith knowing it happened. So if I have faith knowing that God did that, why would I not have faith knowing that God is going to multiply what I faithfully give him? Or should I say faithfully bring him? So Jesus multiplied into a few tens of thousands. So sometimes we're thinking more about how God can't do something rather than about how he can. Right. You know what? I don't see a way to do it. We need $300,000. Wow. What are you asking me for? I got $26. I can't help you. I can't see how this can be done. It's because we see everything God can't do instead of everything that God will do. And we're not believing and trusting in what he will do. Our job is to fish. 12,737, that's just not going to, I can't come up with a number that works because it's not going to. Before Jesus multiplied, now I want you to understand this one. This is so good. Before Jesus multiplied, he organized. For those of us who live with organizers, I live with one. Planner, organizer. I'm a planner, but I'm not really good at organizing. I'm good at vision, but I'm not good at organizing. So I've got vision. Tina's like, put it all together. And then we give it off to Stephanie and Cindy, and then Amber comes in and rearranges all of it again. But see, so what we've got is we've got these organizers. If it wasn't for the organizers, we wouldn't know how many to feed. If it wasn't for the Kanishas and the Beccas, we wouldn't know this number. So Jesus organizes them, and in Luke's gospel, he says, put them in groups of 50. Do you realize that's 600 groups? If it's 30,000, it's a good number to figure out. 600 groups. Why would Jesus put them in groups of 50? Why would there be 600 of them? Number one is he's an organizer. Number one is we don't know how to sow unless we count the cost that it's going to take to sow it. In other words, Jesus knows the cost. It's not my job to count the cost, but I do have to calculate how much, like say if I'm going to sow the field, I have to calculate the acreage. Why buy $3,000 worth of seed when I only need 300? So, God is a God of order. He doesn't need to do this to find out how many to feed. He needed to do this so we would know how many he fed, so we would have an accurate account of this so we can learn 2,000 plus years later. This is why you did this. This is why I had them put them in groups of 50, because there had to be some order. If you don't have some order, somebody's going to get run over. So here's what my friend Devin Webb says. Peace and disorder, they cannot coincide. So people, I used to be one of these. We walk into church, we have no idea what it takes to get this to happen every week. No idea. 20 hours on that countdown video. Watch it, by the way, the 5-minute countdown video. Amber completely made us a brand new one. Probably spent 20 hours. It takes a lot of time to make this day work. It's organized. It's sectioned out. Everybody does their job. Jesus knows what he's doing. He built us in systems anyway, circular system, respiratory system. He built us in systems. Devin says the thing is that we keep expecting God to act outside of his nature. Lord, I've made a mess of my life, and I'm not willing to come under your order, your authority, but I'm wanting you to fix my mess. So we're wanting God to fix what we messed up and act outside of his nature. We want you to bless us financially, but I'm not doing anything for myself to be blessed. He's not going to act outside of his nature. Devin says there has to be order before multiplication can happen. God cannot bless things that are out of order. He can't multiply what's functionally disorganized. He just won't do it. In order for God to multiply, he brings it together and he blesses it and he redeems it. Because you and I have to realize what blesses the other, what redeems the other. The only way it gets blessed is by God's principles. In other words, I want you to bless my finances, and God's like, but it's out of order. I'm first. The tithe is non-negotiable. It's not yours. You're robbing from it if you take it. Give it, bring it, and bring it to the storehouse. And then I'm going to expound upon the 90. You get way more than I do anyway. It's like, but it's multiplication, and you don't understand multiplication. Stop thinking subtraction. Jesus takes the bread and the fish. This is so cool. He prays over it. He blesses it. And from what I can tell, it's like, everybody close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. Bow your heads down. We're going to pray over this meal, this fish and this 2-piece fish dinner. We're going to pray over it now. And then all of a sudden, everybody raises their head up, and there's Aldi bags sitting everywhere. This is not a cartoon. It's not Disney. So this is not what happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened in the physical that we could see. I'm going to tell you when the supernatural happened. Not when Jesus prayed. That's not when the supernatural happened. Not when Jesus' mindset was to, I think, we're going to feed these people. There's what we need, that kid's fish. That's not when it happened. I'm going to tell you when the supernatural happened is when he broke it. See, you and I, we're waiting on the supernatural to happen, but we're not giving anything away for that to happen. A lot of us, just a lot of us in this world. So in other words, Jesus broke it, and when he began to start giving it away, it just never stopped coming. It just never stopped multiplying. And what we're wanting is we're wanting God to multiply everything in us, but what we're not wanting to do is we're not wanting to give it. You can't hoard it and multiply it at the same time. It's not going to happen. So God didn't multiply anything. Nothing supernatural happened until Jesus began to start giving it all away. And that's when it began to start supernaturally expounding upon. So, remember this, disciples were hungry too. But they chose to be servants first. I mean, how many of us hungry? I mean, let's just take a character, let's just take a personality like Peter. Do you really want Peter to get hangry? I mean, he's an ear cutter offer. Do I want to give him an opportunity to get hangry? So how many of us would serve like this? Here, little buddy, there's yours. Here's you some. How many of you, I'm just going to say this, don't answer it out loud. How many of you, when your wife or your spouse or somebody's cooking bacon, you eat like 3 pieces before it's all put on the table? Those first 3 are mine. That's just protocol. If you stop eating them, but you haven't started yet. You've only got 3 pieces laying out there, and the 3 pieces are mine. Now you could start cooking. See, how many of us would take a little bit before we passed out? Servants began to serve people. Disciples began to serve people, but when it was all finished, they got enough to feed their entire family, not just themselves. They got enough to feed their entire family. So let's just kind of land the plane here with a guy named Abraham. Show you what this looks like. Abraham did not have any children. He's the father of nations. God says, I'm going to make you the father of nations. Kings are going to come from you. I'm going to make your descendants as numerous as the sands on the seashore. You want the stars of the sky. You won't even be able to count them. I'm an old man. I don't have a kid. Now, Lord, I'm all believing. But you know what? My biological clock's ticking here now. You got to get something going on. So he's an old man. God gave him a son in his old age, him and his wife. And he named him Isaac. And later on, God asked him, said, I want you to give him back. But Lord, this has been forever coming. And you promised me that there would be hundreds of thousands, millions of descendants, millions of lives affected. But I've only got one. I'm never going to live to see this. And now you want me to sacrifice him. You got that right. That's exactly what I asked you to do. I exactly asked you to do that one thing. God promised Abraham that he would make his descendants as numerous, so numerous they couldn't be counted. Kings would come from his lineage. Not just a king, but multiples. Kings would come from his lineage. And out of that lineage, a guy named David would come, and Solomon, and Moses, and Elijah, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary, the worshiper, Martha, the servant, John the Baptist. I mean, you just start naming off somebody in the Bible, as long as they were in that line, that Jewish Israeli line, they fit under that category. So these are powerful people that came out of that lineage, and Abraham was willing to give the first away to redeem the rest. But God stopped him. But, God knew what he was doing. God provided a lamb that would be the sacrifice. You see what God did? God said, look, I need you to understand how powerful the first is to redeem the rest. Do you want your son? Now think about the thing that you have waited for your whole life. And God finally gives you, and you don't even know if you're going to live to watch this child grow older. And God says, now I want you to sacrifice him and kill him. But Lord, I don't know that I can do this over again. I mean, Sarah's older than dirt. And I don't know if this is going to happen. And God's like, but this is what I'm telling you. All of that multitude that I will multiply, it won't be redeemed unless the first is sacrificed. And the first is what redeems the rest. And when he got ready to, God says, nope, I'm going to give you a lamb to do this with. But you see, God gave us the rest of every bit of it. I mean, we have the kings in our lives. David, we are direct grafted. We are grafted in, direct descendant of David. I don't know if you know this or not, but if you've walked with the Lord, you've asked him into your heart, you're grafted into the true vine of Jesus, which is descendant of David. You and I are descendant of kings. That's who we are. And Abraham was willing to give the first to redeem the rest. You and I are a product of that redemption. And then Jesus came along and was that once and done. that one Redeemer that redeems the rest. God gave us first so the rest of the sons and the daughters could be redeemed. So when we look at multiplication, it sometimes will not pile up immediately. I'm not going to put the seed in the ground, go back out tomorrow and say, kind of thought I'd see some harvest. No, I'm going to have to wait several months. And then there's going to be a harvest. But I've got to wait on the harvest. So sometimes we're so impatient, we have an expectation of what the harvest is supposed to be. We talked about this before. We talked about this weekend. There's a harsh reality of where my dream intersects with my reality. Because I dream of it being so big or this. And God says, look, I know what's best for you. So I want you to stand with me. And I want to ask you this. First of all, is God first? And you say, yeah, God's first, but is He first in everything? I can tell you right now, God's first in my life, but sometimes when there's not enough, when there's more bill than there are dollars, when there's no more month than there is money, sometimes, you know what? I can say, but I don't trust in that. It's easy for us to not trust when we've already got it subtracted. And when we don't see it pile up in front of us, I don't see the Aldi bags piling up, Lord. I don't see the Aldi bags piling up. What we need is to understand that, God, I put you first. I'm going to put you first in everything. You're going to be the number one. And I'm not very successful at being number one. We're the most important person in our lives, by the way. My wife Tina's asked that before. Who's the most important person to you in your life? Well, it's you. You're the most important person. But I'm going to tell you, we've got to put the Lord first. So I'm going to ask you to put the Lord first. And I'm going to ask you to allow Him to have residence in your home, in your house, in your heart. So I'm going to ask you that right now. I want you to pray with me a sinner's prayer that says, Lord, I'm on the other side of this salvation thing and I want to know you. So let's ask Him to do that. Let's ask Him to come into our heart. But then I'm going to ask you to come and put Him first. Come and watch Him multiply. And if we're just going to use God like a genie in a bottle, it ain't going to happen. We've got to literally come into relationship with Him. So pray this prayer with me. Let's seek the Lord first. So let's pray this prayer with me out loud like this. Dear Jesus, I invite you into my heart. I want you to be first in my life, to remind me to make you first in everything, to walk with you and let everybody else know that I'm walking with the one that is first in my life. So I invite you into my heart to forgive me of my sins. I repent of my sins and I receive salvation that will give me eternal life in heaven. And I thank you that I am the whosoever that is called on the name of the Lord. In your name I pray.